Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com for NFL picks, NBA picks. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, many people here online, many of you who comment on my videos are outraged by the news, which caught us all by surprise, that Miguel Cotto has decided not to pay the sanctioning fees to maintain his WBC middleweight title, and that the WBC has decided not to recognize Cotto as its champion. This is on the eve of Cotto's upcoming fight against Saul Alvarez. People are outraged. Isn't Cotto taking away from this event? Right? The argument is that, the title matters. That this is the middleweight division. This is the division of Harry Greb, Stanley Ketchel, right? Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Bernard Hopkins, Carlos Monzon, Sergio Martinez, right? Dick Tiger, Gene Fulmer. How could you treat the title so cavalierly? Let me say this, and I know my views are non-mainstream, but I want people to understand, really, that boxing is a business, right? Miguel Cotto is more than a fighter. He's a businessman. He's a brand, right? He also has a history of taking on tough opponents. Who else in boxing can say that they fought both Mayweather and Pacquiao and Margarito and Sergio Martinez, right? And Zab Judah and Shane Mosley? I believe when you look at the Cotto brand, you understand, unlike my cat here, by the way, let me say, my cat's not starving to death. My cat, for some reason, waits until I start these videos to let me know she's here. Okay, kitty, thanks. But look, the bottom line is this. I think this is a shrewd move by Cotto. Cotto has already established himself as a guy who will fight tough fights. I have a hard time imagining a guy who respects the history of the sport more than Cotto. In my opinion, Cotto's a daredevil. He's the kind of guy who's always thinking about the next big mountain to climb, right? The fact that Cotto has a share of the middleweight title, or at least had a share of the middleweight title, did 24 hours ago, just shows you the kind of ways in which Miguel Cotto challenges himself. Now, people need to understand that the luster on this fight hasn't been diminished. If Saul Alvarez wins the fight, Saul Alvarez becomes a WBC middleweight champion. Cotto is not denying his opportunity, his opponent the opportunity for greatness, right? He's not. Saul Alvarez has the same shot at the title that he did before Cotto's decision. But what people also need to think about is the fact that Cotto, as a future Hall of Famer, has earned the right, in my opinion, to call his own shots. Right? He's earned the right to operate outside the world of titles. Because, of course, titles carry a downside, right? When you're the title holder, your sanctioning body is able to tell you, hey, you have a mandatory fight that you need to do. Your sanctioning body has the right to tell you, you have to fight this mandatory within this period of time. Right? If you want more money, than, let's say, the other side thinks you're entitled to. If the parties themselves can't agree to the purse, then it gets sent out for a purse bid. In other words, your lack of power is so pronounced that the sanctioning body can tell you, hey, y'all couldn't reach an agreement on the purse. We're going to tell you how much you're making for this title defense. Now, I know it's upsetting to a lot of people, but Hall of Famers have more market power than that. Right? There are many of us. I'm talking about fans like myself who will turn on a fight and will say, okay, let me go watch, fill in the blank. Mayweather, right? Ward, Cotto. And as you're looking at the fight, you won't even know what title's on the line. You won't even know if it's a title fight. Right? You're there because of the fighter. Right? This is that age-old argument. Does the title make the man, or does the man make the title? I have to tell you, if Carl Froch were to come back from retirement, and if he were to call out Andre Ward, now keep in mind, Ward has recently relinquished his title at 168. Right? Understand, Cotto's not the only person walking away from titles. Right? If Carl Froch came back, called out Andre Ward, and Ward said, hey, I'm here, I'm your Huckleberry, and those guys fought, would you care that that fight wasn't for a title? Wouldn't you know that that fight would be boxing at its best? Right? If Floyd Mayweather, let's say Cotto beats Canelo, and Floyd Mayweather says, hey, I'm ending my retirement, Miguel, let's get it on. Would you care that that fight is not for a title? Right? I'll agree. There's a huge part of the boxing community that believes that the title makes the man. I'm just here to tell you there's another part of the boxing community that really follows the fighter. Right? You'll watch a Manny Pacquiao fight not quite knowing if a title's on the line. Right? So, Cotto wants the freedom that comes from not having a title. And in this case, I believe it's really, a good move by him because it gives him maximum flexibility. Right? Apparently, his mandatory would be Golovkin, according to some reports. Right? That's a big money fight. I know casual fans believe that fighters should always take, the big money fight at the moment. But economics has a few other factors, doesn't it? Right? Cotto now can't be accused of avoiding Golovkin because Cotto's given back the title. Right? Cotto, after this fight, has a lot of options, doesn't he? Let's say Golovkin is the most lucrative opponent Cotto can fight. And let me say that's debatable because Golovkin doesn't have the pay-per-view history of, let's say, a Manny Pacquiao, right, who Cotto's unlikely to fight because they both, are with Freddie Roach, right? That would be like fighting your brother, right? A Floyd Mayweather, right? Understand, I'm sure Cotto feels he has unfinished business with Mayweather. Right? Even if Cotto thought Golovkin was an easier fight than Mayweather, Cotto knows he has unfinished business with Mayweather. Right? Think about it too. Understand, when you are a future Hall of Famer like a Froch or a Cotto, the guys with the belt come to you. You don't have to chase them. Let's look at middleweight. Right? Aren't you kidding yourself if you don't think that the winner of Danny Jacobs, Peter Quillen, right? Big battle in Brooklyn, right? Between two guys who have big New York bases. Could you imagine if Miguel Cotto called out the winner of that fight? Right? Understand, Cotto really owns Manhattan. Right? Madison Square Garden is Cotto's house. Right? Cotto has flooded the place with people for several fights. If Cotto wanted a middleweight title, my point to you is he can actually have title holders come to him. The winner of Jacobs Quillen would be kidding themselves if they didn't accept the challenge from Miguel Cotto. What about Andy Lee, Billy Joe Saunders in another fight fans need to look at closely? Right there again, Andy Lee's already come to New York City to fight. Right? Billy Joe Saunders, I'm sure, wouldn't hesitate to get the opportunity to hop in the ring with a fighter destined for the Hall of Fame, which is who Cotto is. Right there again. You know, Cotto, in my opinion, would have an opportunity to fight for a title. Right? Golovkin is open to fighting Miguel Cotto. A big question, a good question would be, which middleweight champion wouldn't want to fight Miguel Cotto? Right? So, Cotto deciding not to pay a sanctioning fee or whatever to, let his title lapse is really a bit illusory here. Because Cotto has access to title holders. Right? What giving up the belt allows Cotto to do at this stage of his career, right? Understand, Cotto doesn't have to do another thing to be a Hall of Famer. Right? For Cotto, the work's been done. The career is illustrious. Right? Oh, gee, I forgot the point I was going to make. But let's just say Cotto just doesn't want the handcuffs that come with the title. Let me say, too, that there are other guys Cotto might be willing to fight. Right? Terence Crawford, from what I'm hearing, walks around at 147. This Canelo fight is at 155. Right? My point to you is, I don't think Crawford would say no to fighting Miguel Cotto. Right? Just look at Cotto's history. We know Cotto is the kind of guy who, when you're, rumored to be the top fighter pound for pound, those are the guys Cotto goes after. Those are the guys Cotto wants to fight. Pacquiao, Mayweather. Right? So, let me say this. Even if Cotto wanted to fight Golovkin tomorrow, let's just think it through. He increases his bargaining power, quite frankly, by delaying it a little bit. His star is going to be shining brightly, or could be shining brightly if he beats Canelo. Right? Cotto's already a superstar. That superstar shines even brighter after big wins, doesn't it? Right? If he beats Canelo, rather than have a sanctioning body dictate to him when he has to fight Golovkin, he might think to himself, you know what? I think I can beat Andy Lee. I think I can beat Billy Joe Saunders. Right? Let me fight the winner of that fight first to build up my match against Golovkin. Right? Maybe Cotto is thinking today, if I fight Golovkin, I get $10 million. If I fight Golovkin after fighting the winner of some other middleweight title fight, or after fighting perhaps a Terence Crawford, right? Maybe that Golovkin fight's worth $15 million. Right? Sometimes you actually get paid for not fighting a guy. Right? Think about the Manny Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather economics. right? 5 years ago, they would have gotten X. Because they kept us waiting a few years, didn't both fighters get, what, 3X, 4X when they eventually fought? So I'm not really that thrown by Cotto vacating his crown, or by, more technically, the sanctioning body de-recognizing Miguel Cotto, right? I just view it as a business decision by a fighter who has taken on more comers than most, who has established himself as a guy who accepts stiff challenges, who has done good by the sport, right? Who has helped the sport, right? Who has, really been one of the fighters who a young fighter should really model themselves after, right? When a Hall of Famer like Cotto, who has done as much in the ring as Cotto has done, makes a business decision to avoid having his future dictated to him by a sanctioning body, all right, I'll take that. Keep in mind, this fight against Canelo is such a big challenge that according to Las Vegas, Cotto is more than a 2-to-1 underdog. That's the work Cotto's been doing, right? The fact that Canelo still gets to fight for a title tells me that Cotto's not even being unfair to his opponent here. His opponent can get the belt. What Cotto's telling you here is that he wants more options than those afforded to him as a title holder, right? He doesn't want the WBC telling him what to do, right? At this point, he wants to accept his own challenges, and given his history, we know those challenges are going to be big ones if he continues on in the sport. Put me among those who understands that boxing has a business side, that it is prize fighting, that the prize matters, that timing is important to economics, right? For those reasons, I don't really have a problem with Cotto walking away from his middleweight belt on the eve of his fight against Canelo. I understand there are many points of view out there. I hope you express yours in the comment section to this video. Let's talk about this with each other. Thanks for stopping by.